It had been years since Jotaro Kujo saved the world from DIO. He had faced down unimaginable horrors with his stand, Star Platinum, by his side, but nothing could have prepared him for what lurked in the darkened corners of his mind. Jotaro had been feeling strange ever since he returned from his last adventure. A heaviness clung to him, like the weight of the ocean pressing down on his chest. At first, he thought it was just the residual trauma of his battles, but as time passed, the sensation grew worse. He would wake up drenched in sweat, haunted by nightmares of grotesque figures with twisted limbs and hollow eyes. One night, the nightmares became real. Jotaro had fallen asleep in his small apartment, only to be awoken by a chilling whisper in the dead of night. His eyes snapped open, and for the briefest moment, he saw something standing at the foot of his bed. A shadowy figure, writhing and pulsating, as if it were trying to tear itself apart. "Star Platinum," Jotaro muttered, summoning his stand, but the shadow vanished before the stand could strike. Jotaro sat up, panting, his heart racing. Something was terribly wrong. The next day, the strange presence followed him. As Jotaro walked through the streets of Tokyo, he felt it, watching, lurking just out of sight. He caught glimpses of it in reflections in the peripheral corners of his vision. Each time he turned to confront it, it was gone. That night, the figure returned, only this time it spoke. "Jotaro Kujo," the voice hissed, distorted and inhuman. "You thought your battles were over. You thought DIO was the last of the darkness. But you are wrong. You brought me here." Jotaro narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" The shadow moved closer, its form becoming clearer in the dim light of the room. It was Jotaro, or rather a twisted, grotesque version of him. Its face was a melted mockery of his own, its limbs bent at impossible angles, its grin wide and blood-soaked. "I am your reflection," it whispered. "Your sins, your darkest thoughts, all the death you have caused." Jotaro's mind raced. He had killed many in his battles, but only to protect those he loved. Still, the creature fed on his guilt, its form growing more solid, more real as it spoke. "You can't run from me," the shadow Jotaro said. "I am in your blood." Without hesitation, Jotaro called out, "Star Platinum za Warudo?" Time stopped. Everything froze, except for the shadow. The creature moved through the frozen world, untouched by Star Platinum's power. It laughed, a sound like glass scraping against metal, and in a blink, it lunged at Jotaro. Star Platinum punched it with all its might, but the shadow absorbed the blow, its body reforming around the stand's fist like liquid. "You can't fight me, Jotaro," it hissed. "I am part of you." Before Jotaro could react, the shadow stretched out its hand, grabbing Star Platinum by the neck. Jotaro felt an excruciating pain shoot through his entire body, as if the creature was draining his very life force. Star Platinum faltered, its form flickering. The shadow's grin widened. "You see, every kill you made, every life you took, whether justified or not, fed me. And now I'm here to take what's mine." Jotaro staggered, his vision blurring. He could feel his strength waning, his connection to Star Platinum weakening. Desperate, he reached into the depths of his mind, trying to find the will to fight back. But the more he struggled, the more the shadow grew, feeding on his despair. Then the creature plunged its hand into Jotaro's chest. Jotaro screamed, feeling his insides twist and tear. His vision dimmed as the shadow's hand burrowed deeper, grasping at his heart. Blood poured from the wound, pooling on the floor beneath him. His breaths grew ragged, his body convulsing in agony. "You will die here," the shadow said, savoring each word. Summoning the last of his strength, Jotaro grabbed the creature's arm, his fingers digging into its cold, slimy flesh. With a growl of defiance, he yelled, "Star Platinum, the world!" For a split second, time stopped again. Jotaro willed every ounce of power he had left into the moment, channeling his rage, his pain, and his will to survive. Star Platinum, battered and flickering, appeared beside him and delivered a final, earth-shattering punch to the Shadow's face. The creature let out a horrific shriek, its form unraveling like smoke in the wind. Jotaro collapsed to the floor, blood still pouring from the gaping wound in his chest. But the shadow was gone. The room was silent once more. As darkness closed in on Jotaro, he couldn't help but wonder if he had truly defeated the shadow, or if it was still lurking, waiting to strike again when his guard was down. The last thing he heard before he lost consciousness was a faint whisper in his ear. "I'll always be with you, Jotaro. You can never outrun your shadow." And then, silence.